Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of October 9th to the 15th, though. And I just want to say happy birthday to the United States Navy, though. I was at my job, working down at Camp Pendleton, basically doing the cashier side, but we were giving the Marine Corps, celebrating the Navy's birthday by basically offering, steak and lobster, though. I mean, the steak and lobster there is good, though. It's just not, don't expect it to be on the level you would be if you go to like a steakhouse or a seafood restaurant or anything like that, which can sometimes cost up to $40. But either way, happy birthday to the United States Navy, though. We'll probably be looking forward to the upcoming Marine Corps birthday, though. But anyway, moving on, though, we have basically 4 stories to cover, including basically Nintendo settling a labor lawsuit that recently happened, though. Mixed response to Chris Pratt's voice in Mario, and I want to give my thoughts on Chris Pratt's voice, basically voice in Mario, though. Nintendo Platinum talking about their relationship or partnership with Nintendo. Obviously, you can see a theme. This one's going to be a Nintendo Focus My 2 Cent video, though. And of course, the response to several comments made by the Brazilian regulators in regards of basically the Microsoft buying Activision and Blizzard. And if you're interested in where I got a source of these informations, links will be in the description on this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube and all. But before we get started, though, I like to do what is basically the quick My 2 Cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into basically a huge amount details, though. The first one has a report that basically Persona 4 and Portable and Persona 3, supposedly their release date, I know it's going to be next year. I think early next year when they come out, though. I'm glad that they are bringing these games over, especially to the Nintendo Switch, although it's going to be available on those systems, though. Although part of me kind of wish that they had released these games earlier, so that it sort of build up hype for Persona 5 Royal, since since that's coming to the Nintendo Switch and of course the Xbox systems as well. We also learned that Pilot Wing 64, the new game as part of Nintendo's Switch's online service, part of the N64 library, seems to be targeting a higher frame rate up to like say 60 frames per second, which is kind of interesting, though, that Nintendo would be doing this, and it does kind of raise the question of, could we see other N64 titles get maybe a higher frame rate? Could we see an update to say like Mario 64 going at like 60 frames per second or anything like that? So I'm kind of curious to see if we start seeing other games that come to the other N64 games that come to the Switch online service, and we start seeing them start targeting a higher frame rate, though. We also learned that there are rumors pointing out that Sephiroth, basically of an amiibo looking like him, and basically that there are reports of they're planning to bring them over, including I think one for Tekken, I believe so, and I think one based on Pyra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, though. I enjoy collecting amiibos, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this, though. Hopefully I can snag one, but we'll have to wait and see. We're also hearing that reports about the whole situation surrounding the developers of Disco Elysium. Apparently, they have been fired under what reportedly has been a false premise, which is, if this is true, then it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out and all. We also learned that development on the console versions of Humankind has been delayed indefinitely for now for the Xbox and the PlayStation. Apparently, they seem to be running into some errors, though. Hopefully, they'll address this problem. Hopefully, they'll address it soon, and they can finally figure out a way to bring those games over to the consoles. But yeah, disappointing for those who were waiting for the game Humankind and all. We also learned that Nintendo supposedly had an update for Nintendo Switch Sports, but had to pull that update following supposedly basically that people were having issues, reporting of a bug or something like that. So right now, Nintendo has addressed it and are aware of it and are sort of addressing the update and all. Hopefully, the problem can be resolved. Not a great thing when your latest update is having people having a hard time playing the game and all. We also learned that the development of the Switch version of Persona 5 Royal is being handled by Sega themselves. This is according to a comment made by one of the, I believe, the producer of Persona 5, or at Aulx, to be exact, though. No word on who's handling the Xbox version or anything like that, though. It wouldn't surprise me if Sega is handling that version as well. Plus, we also learned that Aulx has released statements and guidelines for streaming Persona 5 Royal Remaster and all that stuff. And Aulx has been known to be extremely strict on it, and I'm not happy about it in general, especially since Persona 5 is going to be released on both the Switch and the Xbox systems, and it's been released years after the original Persona 5 Royal was released onto the PS4. So I think it's kind of, to me, I kind of agree this is kind of stupid for what Aulx is doing. We also learned that a new trailer for Bayonetta 3 has come out, though, and having seen it myself, all I can say is, when can October 28th happen? Can it happen sooner, though? I'm looking forward to playing Bayonetta 3 and all. We also learned that basically CD Projekt Red is going to offer folks who have save data for the Stadia version of Cyberpunk 2077, since Google is shutting down Stadia, on ways to transfer it over to, I believe, consoles and PCs through something called Takeout and all. So certainly nice for those who are worried about losing any save stats they had on the Stadia version of Cyberpunk 2077. Really shame what happened to Google Stadia, considering when Cyberpunk 2077 launched, the Stadia version was actually the best version at that time, though. But unfortunately, bad decisions on Google part really hurt Stadia in general, though. So not really great indeed. And last but not least, in the entertainment side of the news, though, unfortunately, there were two passings, though. The first one was Angela Lansbury, if I'm saying her name correctly, though. She basically passed away at I believe she was basically, she passed away short of her birthday. She was about, I believe, 96. She was basically a famous Hollywood, she was basically a famous Hollywood star and all back then, though. But for my generation, most of us may remember her from like the Disney movie Bedknock and Broomsticks, if I'm saying the name correctly. I may remember watching it when I was extremely little and all, to basically voicing, I think, Miss Potts, if I'm saying the name correctly, from the early, like the 1992 animated movie Beauty and the Beast, to basically from the movie from 1980 to the hit TV show from 1984 to 1996, Murder, She Wrote, though. So yeah, I'm very sad to see a iconic person pass away, though. My heart goes out to her family and all. And last but not least, another person passed away as well, by the name of Robbie Coltrain. Basically, most of Harry Potter fans will recognize him as he was basically the Hogwarts gatekeeper and all, although he has starred in other shows as well. Unfortunately, it was later learned that he passed away at the age of 72. Was also in ill health condition for the last 2 years. So yeah, my heart goes out to his family as well. Very, very sad to see some of these folks pass away, though. So like I said, my heart goes out to the family members of both Angela Lansbury and Robbie Coltrane. Again, I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly at all. Okay, and with the quick My 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story. And this one has to do with Microsoft, particularly with them purchasing Activision Blizzard. Now, as we are seeing lately, though, they are going through the process of, the regulatories and all that stuff, and a lot of bodies are looking into it, though. We've heard recently that Saudi Arabia has given the okay that they have no problems with Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. We've heard recent comments about Take-Two Interactive saying they are okay with this, though. But we're also seeing some cases where right now the British are looking into this as well, with basically reports of how Jim Ryan's talking about why he's opposed to this deal, and there's some allegations that the British regulators are in bed with Sony and all, although I don't know how much 100% how much accurate is that though. But recently we have heard about how Brasilia has given the okay, and we've also learned some interesting information that has come out from the Brazilian regulator. So several articles, this one from Video Game Chronicles, has reported on a couple of things. The first one has to do with about what Microsoft has generated from Xbox Game Pass, and according to them, Microsoft has generated about $2.9 billion from Xbox Game Pass last year, according to the Brazilian regulatory. So according to the article, it says that, quote, as spotted by Tweaktown, a lengthy report by the Brazilian Administration Council for Economic Defense, CADE, on Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard includes a small table revealing the information. According to the table, in which CADE said the source is Microsoft itself, the Xbox company saw an income of $2.9 billion worldwide from game subscription service for consoles, meaning Xbox Game Pass. It's worth noting that the actual profit is not revealed in the CADE report, and the revenue figure does not include PC Game Pass. I am kind of curious to see, even though I don't game on PC, I am kind of serious to see how much revenue Microsoft has earned through the Game Pass on PC in general though. Anyway, moving on, it points out, as noted by Tweaktown, this means Xbox Game Pass makes up roughly 18% of Microsoft's total annual Xbox revenue, $16.28 billion, and nearly 30% of its games and service revenue, $12.581 billion for the period. The table also claimed that Nintendo Switch Online service saw revenues of $932 million last year, while EA Play reportedly took in $356 million. No figure was given for Sony subscription service though be the PlayStation Now, which is now defunct, or the revamped PlayStation Plus, which was presumably too new to have the figures submitted. The information was given as part of CADE's report explaining why it has approved the proposal of Activision Blizzard with no restrictions. They also stated that should Call of Duty become exclusive to the Xbox in the future, Sony should still have the means to remain competitive, like Nintendo does. This is also what they had. They say though, quote, even so, CADE does not see such an advantage representing a risk of closing this market for current competitors. As is already seen, Nintendo does not currently rely on any content from Activision Blizzard to compete in the marketplace. In turn, Sony has several predicates, strength of the world's leading brand for more than 20 years, extensive experience in the sector, larger user base, largest installed base of consoles, robust category of exclusive games, partnership with multiple third-party publishers, brand loyalty, consumers, etc., which should contribute to maintaining the competitiveness of PlayStation in a possible post-transaction scenario, even in the face of possible loss of access to Activision Blizzard's content. Anyway, which also points out that they've given the go-ahead with this, and they have made this, basically pointed out about how Nintendo basically has done well and all. And honestly, though, it is kind of interesting to see how much money that Game Pass has earned and everything like that. And I will say that having had Game Pass for a while, I am very pleased with how the service is. The whole idea of basically, giving you a chance to try this game out to determine is it worth the time or effort or even worth your money and all. And if it is, you get a discount. So it's certainly interesting to see how much revenue that basically Microsoft has made through Game Pass. Now I'm kind of curious to see what happens when we start seeing, them really putting out more of those first party games onto the service, and whether or not that will really explode or not. Particularly with Starfield, which got delayed into next year. There's some saying early next year or late next year. We'll have to wait and see. It'll be interesting to see what impact Game Pass has once Starfield enters the picture. As far as the whole Nintendo comment, though, I have to say I kind of have to agree with the Brazilian regulators on this, though. And this is probably one area I would criticize Jim Ryan on. The fact of the matter is that him going around trying to block this deal or trying to make some adjustments to this deal gives the impression right away that that impression that without Call of Duty, Sony can't survive or anything like that. And I look at Nintendo, for example, and the thing is, and you probably heard this everywhere, is that basically the Switch has not had one Call of Duty game on its system whatsoever. Not even one single one. Not even a port of an old Call of Duty game making its way over to the Nintendo Switch. Yet, despite that, despite not having a Call of Duty on their system, they're able to do fine. The Switch has become extremely successful for Nintendo, so it has done well even without Call of Duty. Now, I will admit to some extent I am not opposed to the idea of Call of Duty coming to the Nintendo Switch. I certainly have no problems with that. If what Microsoft said during one point saying they want to bring Call of Duty to the Nintendo Switch, if they want to do that, that is perfectly fine. I have nothing against that, though. I'm sure there is an audience that would like to see Call of Duty come to the Nintendo Switch and all. But the point is that even if Call of Duty never comes to the Nintendo Switch or any future Nintendo systems, though, Nintendo has managed to survive without Call of Duty, and it continues to survive, though. So I just feel like this whole idea of PlayStation has to have Call of Duty on their system to survive is sort of ridiculous, though. I mean, they could look at reviving maybe SOCOM Navy SEAL, maybe find a way to bring that back, or look at reviving some old IPs that they have, like bring back Jak and Daxter or Sly Cooper, or even, the Dark Cloud series or Rogue Galaxy, or sequel to, maybe do a sequel to Rogue Galaxy, for crying out loud. There are ways that PlayStation can survive without Call of Duty. You just got to really put some time and effort into it. So I kind of agree with that criticism, though. That doesn't mean I'm against the PlayStation brand or anything like that. I have a PS5. I like the PlayStation systems, don't get me wrong, but I would like to see PlayStation basically try to do stuff outside of AAA games. I'm not saying you can't do AAA games or narrative single-player driven games like those, but let's see more like AA games or smaller titles. Let's see those, especially to help fill in the gap as you build up towards that big release and all. So I would have to say it is a very interesting finding from the Brazilian regulators. So overall, though, very interesting what they have found, including from the revenue from Game Pass to them approving it, to even them kind of going after Sony to some degree, saying, hey, Nintendo managed to survive without Call of Duty, and they're doing just perfectly fine, though. So, I mean, do I still think this deal is going to go through? More than likely, I still think it will. There may be some negotiations on certain things, like Call of Duty must remain multi-platform or something like that, but more than likely, I still believe this deal is more than likely it's going to go through, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with Platinum's comments in regards of basically their relationship with Nintendo. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at comments made by Platinum in regarding their relationship with Nintendo, though. Now, as far as relationship goes between the two companies, though, I will say that relationship has been pretty good, though. While there has been some bumps in the road, like say Star Fox Zero, for example, there have been very much been some hits, though. Nintendo was the one that was willing to help fund the sequel to Bayonetta with Bayonetta 2, though, and we know Bayonetta 3 is happening, though. To them also helping out, bringing out some games exclusive for like the Nintendo Switch, like 2019's Astro Chain, for that matter. Well, recently, Platinum sat down with VGC, Video Game Chronicles, and made some interesting comments about their relationship with Nintendo so far and what they would like to see going forward, especially with a Switch successor, though. In an article published by Nintendo Everything, it reads, when asked about, it basically reads, according to Platinum's CEO, the company can definitely build a even stronger relationship with Nintendo moving forward. His comments came about while discussing Yama, Yamane, having joined the company as its new vice president and CBO. Before becoming part of Platinum, he worked at Nintendo for over 20 years as a former licensing GM and management director of sales and planning. When asked if Yama's, if I'm again, I apologize for not saying it correctly, involvement at Platinum could bring the company relationship with Nintendo even closer. This is what he told Video Game Chronicles. Well, obviously, Yama didn't leave Nintendo on bad terms at all, and this partnership we have with Nintendo is very important to us right now and will be moving forward. I think Yama-san joining us here, Platinum Games, can definitely build an even stronger relationship with Nintendo moving forward. That can only be a positive thing for Platinum Games. So yeah, we're glad to have him on board. So it's certainly nice that when he left Nintendo, it wasn't on a negative term or anything like that, though. I am kind of curious to see how this partnership between Nintendo and Platinum is going to go, how that's going to move forward. Maybe Nintendo will let Platinum work on another one of their IPs or anything like that. Maybe they'll publish a game from Platinum like they did with Astro Chain or anything like that. Maybe bring back, say, I'm just throwing it out there, Mad World. That was released back in 2009 for the Nintendo Wii. So we'd love to see that game will make a comeback and all. However, it is worth pointing out that they also mentioned that supposedly, even though they want to basically have a better relationship with Nintendo, that doesn't mean they don't want to continue doing basically self-publishing titles. So, as mentioned by VCCF Tech, it reads that, quote, before anyone gets too carried away, Platinum still seem to be set on their plans of publishing more of their own games, but it sounds like many of them could still end up on Nintendo's platform. At the very least, Switch and its successor will probably continue to be the home of franchises like Bayonetta and Astro Chain, though. So basically, yes, Platinum still wants to publish their own titles, and I don't blame them or anything like that. I understand they want to have control of their IPs and all. I'm still a little iffy about them, accepting money from Tencent, but it is what it is, to be exact though. So it certainly is interesting indeed. Also in this article, there also mentioned about how basically Microsoft or Phil Spencer making a comment about basically Scalebound and everything like that, though. Now, for those who are not familiar, Scalebound was a game that Platinum and Microsoft were working on, but it never really, it unfortunately got canceled and everything, so it never really went far or anything like that. So there has been some mention back and forth about it, but this is what they said about in regards of Scalebound, or basically Phil Spencer mentioning it. It said, quote, in terms of what Phil Spencer was saying, I'm not really sure where the reaction came from that and what he actually was thinking. We're not really sure, to be honest with you, but if any way he has changed his mind in a positive way for us, that is something we are very happy about. Personally, it's very positive from my own viewpoint, Phil. Let's do it together again. So maybe they could bring back Scalebound. We don't know for certain if it will ever happen, to be exact, though. I mean, we do know that Platinum and Microsoft are in somewhat of a different position now than they were before in the past, though. So we'll see if they ever work with each other again, or if we see maybe a Scalebound making a comeback or not. What we do know is that some DNA of Scalebound will be in Bayonetta 3, though. And last but not least, though, from Destructoid, it's mentioned about he basically would like to see what Hideki Kamiya would like to see in terms of a future Nintendo Switch or the Switch successor, to be exact. according to what Hideki Kamiya said, quote, "And that's exactly how we approach Bayonetta 3. We have to make use of the full potential of the hardware that we have. As I said, this mentality will be the same on every hardware platform that we design for games for moving forward, and not a mentality that is limited to Nintendo Switch. Personally, this is a very lifestyle-oriented preference for myself, but right now, I feel like it's really difficult for me to actually sit still in front of the TV and play games. For me, I lie down and play games in portable mode, and I enjoy games that way, and that's the biggest reason why I like the Nintendo Switch. Whatever the new hardware that Nintendo decides to launch next arrives, I personally do hope to see this portable element so that I can support my lifestyle of playing games as I lie down and all. But basically he's giving a hint what he would like to see Nintendo's next system though. Basically a continuation of the Switch. And honestly, I would say that I think going forward, whatever Nintendo's next system is, I really can't see them going back to the mindset of having both just a console and a handheld, though. I think Nintendo will stick with the Switch concept, and I think they're going to stick with that concept for a while. As for whether or not what the next Switch might be, though, while I do suspect that the next Switch will probably be more powerful than the current Switch out right now in the market, though, I still don't expect that we'll have it basically on the same level as, say, like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X or anything like that. Do I think it will be more powerful than the current Switch? Yeah, I think that will happen. Maybe they'll add some kind of 4K support. Maybe they'll add NVIDIA's DLSS technology into this next Nintendo Switch. There have been rumors going around about that being the possibility, though. So there are many ways that they could approach their next Switch, so we'll have to wait and see when that happens, though. So overall, very interesting interview that Platinum gave to Video Game Chronicles in terms of their relationship with Nintendo, though. I would like to see this relationship continue, though. I do like a lot of the games that Platinum has put out, though. It doesn't mean that Platinum is going to be bought by Nintendo, even though I think a lot of Nintendo fans would like to see that, though. They still want to self-publish their own titles, but it's nice to know that they want to continue this partnership with Nintendo and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with the response some people have had with Chris Pratt voicing Mario in the upcoming Super Mario Brothers movie. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, I want to be talking about the response or some of the comments we've been hearing about in regards of Chris Pratt voicing Mario in the upcoming Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, as some of you are probably aware of, last week, Illuminations and Nintendo dropped the first teaser trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie, though. And I will say the response, and based on what I've read so far, has been overwhelmingly positive. I will say that I definitely thought the trailer looked really nice. I thought they stuck really carefully to as much close to source material as much as they possibly can, though. And I will say Jack Black definitely hit it out of the park as voicing Bowser. I thought he did a really good job and everything like that, though. I mean, yes, like I said, I could have nitpicked basically on what they didn't get right of the certain character, but I'm happy with what I've seen so far. One controversy that has kind of emerged, however, has been Chris Pratt voicing Mario. This was sort of something people had a hard time wrapping their head around at the time when the voice actors or the cast was announced, though. And when we started to hear the response to Mario speak, even if it's just for a little bit, though, it still got mixed responses. Not everybody seems to be happy about it, though. And one voice actor voice actress has voiced her opinion on the matter, to be exact. In an article published on GameSpot, it reads that Tara Strong says that Mario should have been voiced by Charles Martinet in the movie. It says that, quote, according to the article, it reads that Chris Pratt voicing Mario in the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie has raised eyebrows ever since the news broke, and veteran voice actor Tara Strong, Rugrats, Lollipop Chainsaw, Very Odd Parents, and much, much more, recently took to Twitter to question the casting decision. Strong tweeted, "It should have been Charlie, the voice actor who portrayed both Mario and Luigi since 1992 and has had a long working relationship with Nintendo's." Others echo Strong's sentiment in replies and tweets, though. In a follow-up tweet, Strong points out how Hollywood can treat voice actors unfairly sometimes and overlook their hard work. She mentions that voice actress, I'm going to put my heart and soul in this for at least 20 years, help sell billions in merch, make studios millions of dollars, and make generations around the world happy. Basically, Hollywood, we don't care. Strong asks also those to share their memories and photos with Charles Martinet, though. She wrote, quote, "Hey, Twitter friends, I'm happy to know a certain Earth angel who could use some love tonight. Have a story about Charles Martinet, pictures, even meet him at, like Comic-Con. Share in this thread, pretty please. I love him so much now, so much that now we insist on being next to each other at all, Comic-Con to know." Strong later clarified that no one should judge Chris. He's a fantastic actor. This is only what's right about, and Charles should have been offered the role, though. Now, I've seen the Mario trailer several times. I've watched it several times, indeed, though. And I will say this, though. As a longtime Nintendo fan, and as someone who has grew up playing the Super Mario Bros. Game, who considers Super Mario Bros. 3 the greatest video game ever made, though, I will admit Chris Pratt is not my first choice. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing wrong with the actor, though. I think he was great in the Jurassic World franchise. I loved him I enjoyed him playing, or loved that he played Star-Lord and the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and in the MCU in general, though. So I have nothing against the actor, though, but I will admit he's not my first choice to him voicing Mario, though. That being said, though, having heard him voice Mario, even if it's just a snippet of it, I'm not as bothered by it as much as the internet is, or anything like that. I'm not losing sleep over it. After hearing the voice several times, it's like, it's okay. It's all right. It's nothing, not really a huge deal or anything like that. I mean, it's not as good as Jack Black voicing Bowser or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, but the voice is all right. That's enough that I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And I will admit, to some extent, I do think sometimes the internet and social media in general, sometimes goes a wee bit overboard at times. So I would say Tara Strong, based on her comments, I would say yes and no on it. Yes, I agree. Chris Pratt isn't the first choice to voice Mario, but I just don't think it's as huge of a deal and all. And it seems to be this is only for the movie side. I don't think they're going to replace Charles Martinet voicing Mario on the video game side or anything like that, though. So overall, I would say again, Chris Pratt is not my first pick to voice Mario in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but it's not as awful as some on the internet have made it sound like it is. I'm not losing sleep over it. It's just fine. It's nothing special. It's just fine, at least in my book. That's how I am seeing it, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with a labor lawsuit Nintendo recently settled, though. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My Two Cents video, and this one has to do with sort of a labor lawsuit that Nintendo recently has settled though. Now, recently we have been seeing the push of unionizations in businesses or in jobs that normally wouldn't be considered, blue collar jobs though. We've started to see mostly a push into white collar jobs, to even jobs in the video game industry that no one would have thought years ago that this would happen though. We've seen recent push by Raven Software, video game testers at Raven Software, part of Activision Blizzard, that recently pushed for, and voted in favor of forming a union or unionization though, and to even Microsoft, or at least Phil Spencer, coming out saying that he would remain neutral in any future vote should, for this deal, because they're buying Activision Blizzard, in terms of any staffers starting to vote for unionization or anything like that. As for companies like Nintendo, though, they have been under fire before recently by several articles that have come out in regards of them handling in terms of unionization, to even possibly using union busting tactics though. Well, recently though, Nintendo has settled a lawsuit with one of their employees, and I think with the labor department, or people who are in charge of looking at unionization and all, and have now been required to put up a notice in regards of basically in terms of their employees' right to unionization though. In an article from GameIndustry.biz, it reads that, quote, a Q&A worker who accused Nintendo of firing them for asking about the company's stance on unionization has settled their national labor relationship board complaint over the matter, as reported by Polygon. Ms. Macanize Clifton, if I'm saying this person's name correctly, who came forward in September as a person who filed the complaint, said they were fired in retaliation for trying to ask Nintendo of America president Doug Bowser about the company's position on unionization during a company meeting. Clifford agreed to a deal with Nintendo of America and staffing agency Ashton Carter that will see them receive $25,910 in payments, interest, and damage. Ashton Carter will be responsible for the payout, while Nintendo of America has agreed to post a notice detailing employees' unionization rights on the main bulletin board of the Redmond office, the production testing department, for 60 days, as well as emailing a copy of it to all employees in the department. It says, quote, you will have a right to talk about unions, and we will not stop you from talking about unions, the notice reads. We will not fire you because you exercise your right to raise an issue and complaint to us on behalf of yourself and for other employees, including relationships to the topic of unionization. We will not fire you because of your union membership or support. Clifford has also sought an apology from Bowser, but there's no subject or nothing mentioned in terms of it in the settlement. Nintendo still faced a second form of the National Labor Relationship Board complaint that was filed in August, shortly after Kotaku and IGN ran investigative features detailing treatment of Q&A employees at the company, though. So basically, it does sound like a settlement was basically handled for this, which certainly is good, though. But at the same time, this employee should never have been fired for asking the question about unionization. And I don't think there's anything wrong with asking that kind of question. What is your stance in terms of unionization, though? And the fact that the president of Nintendo America, Doug Bowser, couldn't even answer that question is in my view, is completely unacceptable. And the fact that they then said that it was because of this person released confidential information, but this person disputed that, though. It kind of gave the impression that they were trying to use this as this was our reason for firing them. It had nothing to do with unionization, when that really wasn't the case. And as far as unionization in general, though, my position has been any decision on unionization must be the employee's decision. The employees must weigh the pros and cons and determine, is unionization the right direction they want to go or not, though? And while I agree that unions should not bully, intimidate, threaten, or anything like that towards people who don't want to join a union or anything like that, or be forced to join the union, I would also say the same rule applies to those who use any type of union busting tactics of any type to prevent people from unionization. It should always be the employee's decision. Nintendo should have handled the situation better. They should have asked the question, though, or better yet, Doug Bowser should have been prepared for if someone were to ask a question in regards of unionization. And the fact that it took this settlement to try to put an end to this and the fact that they had to now put up a notice about it is utterly ridiculous, though. And especially after you're hearing what's going on with Activision Blizzard and all that stuff, given how some of the employees were treated, though, not to mention some of the female employees as well, you kind of feel like, yeah, or at least I see it as I'm more in favor of them unionizing than ever before. So I believe employees have a right to ask about unionization. And that they should not face retaliation just because they're asking a question in regards of unionization and all that stuff. So I agree. Nintendo absolutely deserved to be criticized by this, though. They absolutely should have handled the situation better, though. It's nice that apparently a settlement has claimed, though, but I do think that a lot of these companies need to understand that there's more push for unionization now than there has ever been before. So overall, though, great that this lawsuit was handled, though, but this situation, I think Nintendo should have handled this better. They should have, and I believe employees have a right to ask about unionization and should not face retaliation or lose their job just because they're asking a question in regards of unionization in general, though. Okay, this concludes this quick My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about what the Brazilian regulators have put out in regards of the Activision, Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, though? Do you think it's very interesting to hear about, how much Microsoft's made during Game Pass, though? Do you think the Brazilian regulators were right when they said, hey, look, Nintendo doesn't have a Call of Duty game, and yet they're doing just fine with their system and all? And do you still feel this deal will go through? Do you think there may have to be some negotiations in the background to make this deal happen in any way? What are your thoughts about Platinum's comment with their relationship with Nintendo? Are you glad that Platinum has a good relationship with Nintendo, though? Do you want to see that relationship continue? Do you think maybe seeing an Astro Chain 2 or anything like that? Are there certain IPs you think that Platinum could try to make for Nintendo, or anything brand new or anything like that? What are your thoughts about Chris Pratt voicing Mario, though? Do you think Tara Strong is correct in terms of basically that it should have gone to Charles Martinet? Are you bothered by Chris Pratt voicing Mario in the upcoming Mario movie, or are you not? Don't really think it's as huge of a deal as some have made it out to be? And what are your thoughts about this lawsuit that basically this lawsuit that Nintendo has recently settled? Do you think that Nintendo could have handled the situation better? Do you think they should have answered the question in regards of unionization, though? Has this situation convinced you even more of seeing more unionization in the gaming industry in general? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.